Oh, greetings and welcome to Mind the Moment in Everyday Life. Each month, we take a theme and we explore how mindfulness can support us in bringing that theme to life in our everyday lives. Our theme for May is Parenting as Practice, Mindfulness for Busy Moms and Dads. I'm John Roberts from Living Well Community, your home for interactive virtual wellness classes and on-demand programming created and curated for you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. Here with me once again, your mindfulness guide for this merry month of May, Cara Lai. Welcome, Cara. How are you today?
Thanks, John. I'm doing well. How are
Hmm.
you?
Cara, you are fresh back from retreat. You are away from your child, your son, for about a week. Is that right? A week?
Yeah, 8 days, a little
8
more.
days. Okay,
hmm
so how was it coming back? I hope that you guys are readjusting. He remembered you. It was
When I actually came home, I snuck up behind him. He was eating a charcuterie board, and I snuck up behind him, and I just kind of peered around until he could see me out of the corner of his eye, and then he looked at me, and he just said, "Oh, hey." So I think it's cool, like it wasn't like a big da na 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 na, which is kind of good in some ways because it means that he's okay with me going away for a week. But it was a little bit sad, a little bit sad, a little, I miss the days of I really need my mommy, but
yeah.
those days are behind, and there's perks to it.
Now he just needs his charcuterie board. I guess when folks know this is a 2.5-year-old child eating the charcuterie board. What is
Yeah.
on a child's charcuterie board?
Well, his dad prepared this for him. It
Hmm.
was Triscuits, cheddar cheese, and chopped up sausage,
Ah, it's very nice. That's
summer
good.
sausage. Yeah.
Oh, Carl, at the end of last week's session, you gave us what I might call a mindful challenge. You were starting from the premise that as busy moms and dads, or even just busy humans in general, it may not always be the case that we are able to make time to sit and meditate in what we might call a formal sense for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. So instead, what you were suggesting is that whenever micro breaks present themselves within or between the moments of our lives, that we consider filling those micro breaks not with scrolling on our phones, for example, but rather tuning into our bodies or whatever it happens to be that we're thinking or feeling at that moment. Here's another way I've been putting it to myself. Should it be the case that I find my son momentarily occupying himself with his Mad Max style fleet of half broken toy trucks, then instead of taking that opportunity to immediately grab my phone, open the TMZ app to try to figure out the new Pope refuses to put ketchup on his hot dogs like any good Chicagoan or is instead bucking that trend, instead of distracting myself in that way, I should instead maybe open up my inner app, the one that is going to give me information about myself and how I'm doing in that moment. Is that right? Does that sound like I have it right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, opening up your inner app is actually the same exact verbiage that came directly from the ancient Pali texts that describe how to practice mindfulness. So I
That's
think you're pretty spot on there.
that's, that's
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you. I know it's I tried to go right back to the beginning, those initial apps. The ancient apps, I think.
Mhm.
But I do suppose, Carl, that one has to be a bit of an opportunist in these situations, like just sort of always at the ready to take advantage of those micro moments, those moments within moments when we might have a second to spend in ourselves. Is vigilance our watchword here? Should we really be, do we just need to be waiting? Will that create anxiety, actually, if I'm waiting, like, is this the moment? Is this the moment?
Yeah, the word vigilance tends to conjure a bit of what's it called? Clenching of clenching of the butt cheeks, if you will.
Another
And
technical term, I think.
yes, and also from the ancient Pali. Uh, and I think this is not that type of strain is not very helpful most of the time when it comes to this practice. And actually, if you pay attention to mindfulness and when it arises, it's quite spontaneous and it's not something that comes from over efforting. It comes just spontaneously without us trying to do it. It just is, it is something that starts to happen more and more on its own when we practice it. And we see how useful and beneficial it is. So it just starts on its own to recur by itself. And it's really through finding an association with ease that's connected with mindfulness that helps us willingly go back to that space. So if we're associating it with stress and I'm not doing it right, or I have to try really hard to get this to happen, then there isn't going to be an intrinsic motivation. But if it's associated with a sense of ease and just resting and being with the present moment and whatever is arising in it, then it's kind of like a mini vacation, and we want to take a mini vacation all the time.
Would you say that there's more of a sense of effort in the formal meditation practice, and because we exert that effort there, that then we can act a bit more effortlessly in how we are mindful in everyday life?
I don't know if I would use the words more effort. I would just say there's more intentionality. We're trying to create conditions to best support ease, actually, when ease and stillness when we're doing a formal practice. And so we're just being very intentional about carving out that space and protecting that space. But there's no additional strain. In fact, there's just as much ease, if not more ease, involved in a formal practice than there is in a day-to-day, moment-to-moment practice.
Well, I can tell you how I have been watching mindfulness sort of spontaneously come up in my parenting life in ways that has been fairly successful for me recently. So I've discovered when I put my son into the bath for his nightly unmuddying, as long as he can see me out of the corner of his eye or can hear me shuffling around, he'll play by himself pretty contentedly. And so I've stopped taking my phone up to the bathroom with us during tub time. Instead, I just kind of slip into the next room, just lay on the floor, just let myself feel stuff, whatever's queued up. And I should hasten to add, my son is almost 5, so we're outside that zone where I need to be watching him like a hawk when he's in the tub. But I'm finding
Oh,
those
should I be
moments.
doing that?
No, you're fine. He's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure he's fine. It's he's in the tub, he's got the charcuterie board, it's the candles are lit. It's fine, you're fine. But I feel like, yeah, those even just getting on the floor somehow puts me into like, okay, this is a little bit unusual. Like it takes me out of my normal habit
Mm.
patterns of wanting to like reach for the phone or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's something to that setting the scene
Hmm.
that helps our minds remember that this is something special, that there's something in particular that we're trying to do here that isn't just going to our habitual thinking.
And here's another one. Here's another spontaneous moment of mindfulness I've been enjoying. My wife and I, we allow ourselves about 45 minutes of dedicated adult time every night after our son goes to bed. And of course, as natural American humans, we fill that time with television, the same way you might fill a slightly cracked cup with Sanka or something. But recently, my wife has been encouraging us to meditate together for like 10 minutes before we, submit to the couch, because, the Mandalorian is still going to be there after we meditate. And so I think, surrounding myself with people like my spouse who is able to encourage me in the cultivation of good mindful habits has been helpful to me. Is your husband encouraging to you of these things? He's a bit of a meditator, as I understand it, right?
Oh, way off. No, 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 no,
I was just making that
no,
up. Okay.
no. No, and that's actually probably good to talk about too, is that
Hmm.
not all of us have spouses that are into meditating. And so, yeah, that's great that your wife kind of helps both of you get into that space. But for some people, that's not an option with their partner. And yeah, my husband, he does not, he's very supportive. of what I do. Extremely supportive, as one could be. That's maybe why you thought that he was a meditator himself, but he does definitely not meditate. And
Yeah.
that's actually okay with me. It's just helps me keep my perspective on the regular people in the world.
Well, I have a question, Cara. So, would you have any advice for people who may live with folks who are not meditators? And is there like a gentle way that one can be like, "Hey, I need some time right now. I'm going to go meditate. Just, I need some space." Is there a way to do that and not make the other person feel like you're, disengaging from them or rejecting them?
Yeah, well, I think everyone can relate to needing to take a break. Like I just need some quiet time. I think everybody can relate to that, especially if you're a parent and you just understand getting overstressed and needing to be able to recharge yourself so that you can show up for your family. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is if you really have a regular practice, it's going to show at some point the benefits. Just the way that you're showing up is going to change. And so it will become over time apparent that you're taking 10 or 15 minutes here and there to be mindful is actually not a selfish act. It's not, you're not just going and scrolling on Instagram and eating M&Ms. You're actually doing things that are beneficial for yourself and for people around you.
That's right. So that's good. So it might be like you're saying, "Hey, can I have 10 minutes to meditate?" And your spouse says, "Actually, you should take 20 minutes." I mean,
Yes. Yes. You should go away for 8 days.
that's right. All right, so folks, we'd love for you to be a part of this conversation today as well. Of course, do open up the chat. Let us know any questions or comments that may arise, as well as any ways that you found are working for you when it comes to bringing maybe mindfulness spontaneously or effortlessly into your own life, into your, I'm sure, very busy life. But Cara, how would you like to direct us today in terms of teaching?
Yeah, well, what we were just talking about is actually a really great segue into what I wanted to bring in today. Last week, how uh, I talked a lot last week about how mindfulness isn't pretending to be calm. It's actually just being real with how you are feeling. And what that really is about that I want to talk about today is self-compassion and including how you're feeling in the field where parents, I think, tend to have some kind of ideal about parenting as being this thing where we're supposed to set our feelings aside in favor of somebody else's feelings. We're supposed to take care of our kids first and foremost. What they're feeling matters more than what we're feeling. And that's really quite the opposite of the approach that mindfulness invites. The invitation is really to first and foremost pay attention and know what's happening for you. And when we can be balanced or just taking care and being aware of how we're feeling, then we can act much more skillfully and show up for other people in a way that's the most beneficial. And so it's it starts from within, and then our actions are much more skillful, kind, generous, understanding, because we have been resourced in our own bodies and minds, and we're not trying to get someone else's behavior to be different so that we can feel better, which is what often ends up happening when we're not paying attention to how we're feeling. So I just am trying to help folks see how mindfulness really is about self-compassion and how important self-compassion is for a parent, and really dismantle the notion that you're being selfish if you're taking time for yourself, because there's no way that taking time for yourself, being mindful of your own needs, could be harmful for anyone or detract from somebody else's experience. In fact, it could only be of benefit. So the more we do it, the more we take time for ourselves, put ourselves first, the more we start to see how other people benefit from it too. And also that way we're getting to help others recognize that we have needs also that are important, which is important modeling for our kids to see, oh yeah, like maybe it's important for me to take care of my needs because my parents are doing it for themselves. And also for them to just see that their parents have needs, which, if you're pretending like you don't have needs, then your kids are going to start thinking that you don't have needs and that they can do whatever they want to you and you're not going to care, which is not healthy and not
Yeah, I
happy.
suppose there is a sense of having to find this sense of balance here because, of course, if one is feeling like a lot of feelings they're haven't processed yet, and then they're trying to interact with their kid, they might kind of bring that energy, challenging energy into the interaction. But then again, we're never going to completely process everything before we have to interact with our kids, and so and then maybe I suppose that's where the mindfulness comes in, is able to sort of on the fly be doing that recalibration, like whose needs are most urgent at this, not even at this time, but at this minute, at this second.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's okay if we miss it, because we will. We're gonna find ourselves reacting in some way before we've touched in and felt our feelings. But you can be mindful in any moment. So you can be mindful after with whatever feelings of like regret or disappointment in yourself or like self-criticism, and be with that. So there's never a moment that's too late to practice doing this. And also, this reminds me, what you're saying is like the invitation or the how of this is really to feel viscerally what's happening in your body. So you can do this while you're reacting to the situation. You could address the situation while feeling, yeah, I'm really angry right now, and or you're feeling whatever it is. The ask is not to calm down and then do something about the situation. It's just to feel what's happening for you while you have to deal with the situation.
Cara, I feel like this could be a good segue into the guided meditation practice today, because I'm just guessing this is what you're orienting it towards.
This is
Uh,
exactly it.
may I invite you to take us on in?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we'll practice for a few minutes here, and no need to get into any special posture, but find some kind of orientation to receptivity and ease if you can. And if that means closing your eyes, you can close your eyes. If that means taking a few deep breaths, you can do that. And just start to tune in to how your body's feeling right now, just in general. You might notice places that feel good, comfortable, places that don't feel good, uncomfortable, or in pain. You might notice how the breath is, if it's short, tight, it's big. And the compassion piece is simply allowing yourself to be feeling whatever you're feeling, not trying to change it, regulate it, make it go away. That's what compassion is. It's allowing things to be as they are, giving yourself as much time and space as you need to be having the experience you're having. So if there's a jumpiness or restlessness in the mind, in the body, a dullness or a sleepiness, all of it is okay. We might see if we can locate a sense of being held. Sometimes it helps me to connect with the feeling of gravity holding me, the surface underneath me holding me. And your body and all of what it is experiencing, your mind and all that that's experiencing, this can all be held. If what's going on for you is ever too much to turn directly towards, you can always direct your attention to something that feels far away from any discomfort. Sometimes sounds can be really helpful with this, just including the field of sound around you and letting that in with the same kind allowing attention. Sometimes feeling the feet, which tend to be located far away from the emotional centers of our bodies. Just noticing the sensations of tingling or warmth or pressure there. And letting everything just be as it is. This is just what's happening right now, not something that you need to fix, not something that's your fault, just this moment of life. And when you feel ready, you can start to widen your attention a bit. Notice the feeling of the space that you're in. You might open your eyes if they're closed and just let the field of vision come in. And we'll end the meditation there. Yeah, so that's something that you can do even if you're not formally meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Just check in. What's your body feeling like right now? What's going on emotionally for you? Uh, what is it? A question that I like to ask myself actually is there anything that I'm not wanting to feel right now? Because those things often go unnoticed. And since we would rather not feel them, we try to look outward to get rid of our inner feelings. So, classic example is you need to stop doing that so that I can feel better. Yeah. But if we're addressing and looking for what is it that I am not wanting to feel, then we're taking some care of it for ourselves before we completely blame somebody else. Not that it's never anyone else's fault, but we always have agency, far more agency over our feelings than anyone else does.
Of course, something else you said earlier, which I found really powerful, was this idea about modeling uh, self-care or expressing what we're feeling to our kids. Because I'm thinking if I need to say to my kid, okay, I got to step away, I'm feeling some stuff, I need to go feel, maybe it's frustration. In the short term, that actually might have a negative effect on the kid. I mean, because the kid might be like, no, I don't want you to step away. But in the long term, I feel they will absorb this modeling of like, this is how we reset ourselves so that we can be our best selves to one another.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple weeks ago, my son decided to start punching me in the face. And it made me pretty mad. And it was both a gesture of trying to protect him as it was to try to protect myself that I left the room, shut the door, and went into my bedroom and shut the door and didn't say anything because I was angry. And if I opened my mouth and did anything from that place, it would have been much worse than what ensued, and which he was very sad and upset that I left. He came in crying and he was like, "You left, mom." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you were punching me in the face." And I got mad. And he was like, "You got mad?" So it was just like, yeah, when you punch someone in the face, they get mad and they walk away. And it might make you sad. And I might have to deal with the fact that me taking space made you sad, but that's going to help everybody in the long run for us all to get used to that. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the momentary rupture, I think, it is what provides the element of restoration later on. And
Mm-hmm.
something else you said earlier, which I found very powerful, and which I think relates to this, is that one can be mindful retroactively. Like being mindful is not necessarily about stopping yourself from doing something before you do it that you might regret doing, but simply in knowing what has been done, what you have done, and using what it feels like to have done that thing, good or bad, to help direct your next actions. And this also seems clearly where the self-compassion piece must come in because it's not always that we do things that we're like, I'm glad I did that. Sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm realizing the full extent of what I just did, and I can feel terrible about myself, or I can maybe bring a little self-compassion into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And feeling all the different feelings and being able to face them fully is what helps us learn from the experience. And oftentimes, when something is painful, we don't want to feel it. And so we don't get to learn because we haven't processed it on a physical level.
Well, Cara, as we're rounding out this session, I wonder if you have any thoughts on how you might recommend folks bring some mindfulness into their parenting practices in the coming week.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned one of them, which is this question we can ask ourselves of what am I not wanting to feel right now? So that's one. Another one that I really, really find helpful is when we when we're confronted with a situation that is triggering for us, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have an answer about what to do. Like, I should know how to deal with this situation. And it's been so helpful for me to have a valid answer to that be, I don't know. I don't know what to do right now. I'm confused. This has never happened before. Okay. And just having that, I don't know, available as an option can open up a lot of space to not need to do something very immediately to solve the problem and just, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe let's just feel what's going on for me and move from there. And that the I don't know can stay as long as we need it to. So we might be feeling really emotionally charged, but I don't know is still really, really helpful in that. So um, letting ourselves just have that kind of humility really, really can soften something that feels stuck and hard
Hmm.
in a hard situation.
We might call it I don't know mind. That might be the thing
Yes.
to cultivate this week or forever, actually. Cara, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us this week. I can't wait to pick it back up with you again next week.
My pleasure. Yeah, so fun. Talk to you next week.
Now, final word before we go from the philosopher Dave Barry, who wrote, quote, a perfect parent is a person with excellent child-rearing theories and no actual children, end quote. So for the rest of us, I suppose we are, at best, hobbling towards perfection one sloppy step at a time. But then again, I'm not sure I've ever really trusted anyone who didn't have a little bit of mud on their boots. So thank you for getting muddy with us here today. We hope to see you again next week. We shall return for more with Cara Lai. Until then, please go forth and be excellent to each other.